Hey everyone, happy Thursday. Gordon here with another Tech Time with Gordon. Today I'm going to be discussing passwords. Now, we all use it in our everyday life from securing different accounts, Facebook, our email account, to even personal gadgets and gizmos. I have a password protection on my phone to prevent people from accessing it. So basically, in a nutshell, password protection basically prevents unauthorized use of the device or whatever account. You can treat it as, say, a door. We have a lock on our door. The only way through that lock is with a key, and the only person who has access to the key is me and maybe a select few individuals. So when it comes down to our key or our password, basically we do want to make sure that it is strong and we do whatever it takes to prevent other people from getting a hold of it. So I do have some tips and suggestions when it comes down to making a strong password. So the first one is do not use your personal information. When it comes down to accounts, people are able to find out a little bit of information about you, whether it's, what your birthday is, what your middle name is, or your last name, your street address. All this information can be discovered one way or another. So when it comes down to it, we don't want to use this information in a password because this is the first thing that they are going to try when trying to break in to your account or your device. So another tip is not using real words. So what I mean by not using real words, using different symbols or different numbers, because in some cases, some numbers do look close to letters. So examples, um, ones look like L's, um, zeros look like O's, eights sometimes look like B's, threes look like backwards E's. Using that combination along with upper and lowercase letters, we can kind of come up with our own facsimile when it comes down to real words. And this does throw it off when someone is trying to break into the account because they're going to try to do real words first. So by doing these little tricks, you can throw them off from discovering what your password actually is. So also when it comes down to creating a password, you do want to make it fairly long. They do suggest 12 to 15 characters in range. And most accounts that you make now do require this certain length. Why this is basically the longer it is harder for hackers to kind of brute force their way into your account. However, if I have a very short password, it doesn't take them that long to crack it. So the longer it is, the harder it is for someone to figure it out. So when we deal with multiple accounts, you do want to make sure that you use different passwords. The reason why is if a hacker is able to get into one of your accounts, they will try to use that password on everything else. So kind of like falling dominoes, once one falls, they all start to fall. So it is better to have different passwords so that if they are able to hack in, they will probably not be able to get into the next one so easily. Now, when it comes down to where I should be typing in my password, you do want to make sure that you are using your own personal device. If you have to use a friend's device or something like that, make sure that the password is erased afterwards. Unfortunately, some people will hop onto someone else's to get access to their Facebook or email and forget to sign off. Now your friend technically has access to your account. Same can be said when you're dealing with internet network or Wi-Fi. You do want to make sure that um, you are either using a VPN, so basically hiding your identity, or if you're using public Wi-Fi, you make sure to figure out what their security is like. Unfortunately, if it's a public Wi-Fi and it has no security, potentially your information, including passwords, can get leaked or someone else can see that information and now have access to those accounts. So when again dealing with an unfamiliar device or network, try to limit what you're doing when it comes down to accounts, if all possible. Um, do this at home when you're dealing with personal passwords and security. If you do have to use someone else's, just make sure that your information is erased afterwards, or you know what kind of security they have in place. So when it comes down to changing your password, how often do I need to change it? Well, there are different rules of thumbs regarding this. Now, for most of them, they say, you don't want to do this every day, not every week, and not every month. Because the reason why, you start running out of ideas, so you start making weaker passwords. And then you kind of get into a trend where you start reusing older passwords that are liable to be able to get hacked into. So, when you make your account right off the bat, or when you make your password, you want to make it strong and unique right off the bat. And if you have done this, you don't really have to worry about changing your password on a regular basis. So another thing I would recommend, if you have the option, is two-factor authentication. So basically this method allows you to verify your identity and just adds a second layer to your account. So adds kind of almost an extra password, if you were. So with two-factor authentication, generally we are going to give them information. So another email address or a phone number. Generally, I would recommend using a cell phone number. And what will happen is when you go into your account, it's going to send something to they'll send you a text message or they will send you an email with a code, and you're going to use that code to get into your account. Um, and it is hard, this extra layer makes it hard for someone to crack your account, because if, potentially they are able to figure out what your password is, now they have to gain access to another email account or potentially have access to your phone in order to get through that second layer. Now, with two-factor authentication, it is a double-edged sword. And what I mean by this is basically if you decide not to use the other email address, or if you are about to change your cell phone number, make sure that you update your authentication with the new number or the new cell phone number, because what will happen, and I have seen this in the past, where unfortunately they've forgotten to change it, and when they get to the second factor, unfortunately they do not have access to that text message because they no longer have that phone number, or they no longer have that email account to verify. So, make sure if you are using this method that if you are doing any updates or changes, make sure to update that in your authentication as well. So another thing you can look at is called password managers. So what a password manager will do is basically it'll assist you, it can help in generating complex passwords if you kind of run out of ideas. And it can also be used potentially as storage. So basically you can save all your passwords within a password manager. And because it's encrypted and secure, you don't have that risk of someone getting their hands on all your passwords. And there are a variety of them out there. The top password managers are Dashline, LastPass, and 1Password. I would definitely recommend, if you find that you have so many passwords and you're not sure where to save it, or you're looking for somewhere to save it securely, look at these password managers and see if they're right for you. So if a password manager is too complex or too high tech for you, a low tech suggestion and something that I actually use myself is using a notepad or a journal and then writing, your account information and password. Everyone understands how a piece of paper works. Make sure though you put it in a place that you have easy access to it. I do not recommend that you carry it around with you outside. Having it in one fixed place inside your house just makes it easy for you to remember where it is and prevents having additional people access it. This is also a great method if something happens to you, you get sick, and someone needs to get access to your accounts for you. You can give them that journal or give them that information quite easily so that they are able to deal with your accounts in the fashion that you desire. So in conclusion, passwords are used in everyday life. Now more than ever, there's basically a password for everything. And unfortunately, some people get into that mindset that they make it simple and they make it short just to save them some time. However, falling in this pitfall, it makes it easier for someone to hack into that account and gain access and cause you a lot of grief and headaches later down the road. So, try to follow some of the guidelines that I suggest. Use unique characters, make it as long as possible. Try not using information that is easily attainable. Don't use your street address, don't use your maiden name, don't use your dog's name. This stuff people can find out and then they can use against you. So, make it as strong as possible because as long as it's strong as possible, it makes it harder for those hackers to break in and do the damage. Hopefully everyone learned something, and I'll see everyone next week. Bye for now.